A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams.
Okay, quiet. Hey, quiet.
Sit out, short me.
Ow! No, not an owl. A real scream of pain.
So that concludes Oak Cliff Day 3.
We're 75% of the way down.
And this is driving while screaming after watching movies for 12 straight hours.
Yes.
So like, I don't know, like where do you, it's been a long day. I think we're both pretty exhausted. I had my cranky festival moment. Have you noticed this? I mean, I know we've been to like 3 like of these film festivals together, but if you haven't noticed, there is a moment during the week or the festival where I get really pissy. And sometimes it only lasts for like half a day, but there's a time that comes at every one of these where I'm just like, I start bitching at everyone and about everything. And that happened today.
This one's so different in the sense that like at Diff, it's like almost like being on a luxury like cruise, because the theaters are big, you know, they're reclining seats, especially at Sinopolis, right? And this is not a knock on Texas theater, but like when you're in the upstairs theater for 6 hours and like 6 consecutive, right? It's not like, I mean, like we were back to back, right?
Yep.
It is an old school theater. Yes, it is stadium seating, but it is nut to butt the entire time.
Yeah. And as we established, I think yesterday, I am over 6 feet tall.
right. He had an extra $200,000 laying around.
I did. I decided to get taller.
But also, in like for the most part, when we're in that theater, it's not jam packed. So you got a little bit of wiggle room. But as this thing gets bigger, they've got to crank the air up, man. It was sweltering. It's fucking late June, early July in Texas. Yes, I understand it is nighttime.
Well, it's also, but it's like 12:15 and it's 90 degrees, right?
Right.
So.
It was I was dying sitting through Fucktoys. I was just like, oh my gosh.
Do we want to start there?
Yeah, let's start with Fucktoys. I think that's, yeah.
Right. I think that was the best film that we saw today, right? I thought it was so smart and so funny, and like we kind of said, like brave. I mean, this is a very much, not to be like someone in the Q&As, but it's very kind of influenced by John Waters, right?
Yeah.
And I just mean like, we're in a place called Trash Town. You cannot help but think of Waters, right? And we're in this kind of like alternate world again, right? You can't help but think of Waters, and our main character is a sex worker,
right?
And it's
I guess
what happened?
Well, they could have gone, I guess is my point, but whatever.
That's what I thought. But this is a weird intersection.
It is a weird
intersection. I'm sure everyone listening knows exactly what we're talking about.
Take your time, Dodge. It's fine.
But I mean, I and it's a kind of, our heroine's in trouble or has a curse on her and has to figure out how to get out of this, right? So we do have kind of a heroine's journey. I mean,
yeah, I felt it was like it was equal parts, obviously, in Nora / John Waters / like the People's Joker in a lot of senses, where like the narrative wasn't necessarily linear, and it wasn't like you were kind of bouncing from place to place. But I thought, like, I think the choice to shoot on 16 millimeter is pretty inspired, and especially in this case, as opposed to something like Strange Darling, where we're inundated with like, this is 35 millimeter, and you need to know the import of that. This just looks cool, and like I was vibing with it very early on. Yep. You got the scratches, and like it looks. It has that.
Well, and the lushness that I feel like 16 millimeter has, right? And the depth of field, right, or lack thereof.
And it makes me wonder, like, if like other films that are kind of surrealist like this. I mean, like, this is not really that, but like something like Greener Grass, or even Strawberry Mansion too. But that has a kind of a retro, vintage technology aesthetic to it already. Right. But like, if something like Greener Grass or like In Fabric had have been, filmed on film or like less digital and less kind of, I think it maybe would have felt a little bit more, I don't know, it would have felt something a little bit more, I don't know, substantive, like more than those films. Even though I like both of those relatively.
Giving them some more weight.
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, I'm here for you.
But I think again this Honora by a female filmaker, I also think is the story that's really interesting, right? I think it's and I think you get I don't know, it really does like bring to light what a female filmmaker could have brought to a story like Honora's, right? Yeah. Because all of the urgency and the immediacy is still there, but it's also, you don't get the feeling that like, when kind of like you do in Honora, where she's kind of being talked down or looked down upon, either for her education. I mean, yeah, she's supposed to be strong and she curses a lot.
Well, but there's a different sense of agency in this film.
Right, absolutely, yes.
Like there's no one who's going to help her, like, in this at all. And I mean, I think the stakes are played, like, for laughs and as low stakes, right? Which is different from Honora, but she's really on her own and has to figure out these different ways to get by, right? At every turn. Yeah. Where, I mean, Honora was going to get that payday, in some respect, no matter what.
Right.
And as much agency as Honora did have, she was still being sort of dragged around and led and, in a way, controlled by these other people. Right. And there's none of that here.
No. And this is like, at times whimsical, at times like serious. I mean, obviously, like with the Waters aesthetic, you've got, you kind of know what you're getting into at that point. Yeah. Like, but I think just there's so many like subtle moments, that are comedic aspects. Like when just jumping off from the very beginning, when she's like, the movie starts off with a great set of dialogue where she's like, it's almost like Inglourious Basterds-esque in a sense, right. But it's so good. Like rather like she's sitting in the middle of a lake on kind of like
a bayou,
right?
I mean, it's like a swamp, right? Yeah.
And speaking to a fortune teller who's telling her that she's cursed, and after she's all done, it's going to cost $1,000 to get out. She's like wondering where to go, like like motioning.
Like, how do I get out of here?
The camera pulls back. It's a really subtle movement, but like she's just like points. Like, is that the door? Right?
That was really good. And then the wobble on her scooter. I mean, stuff like that. Just like the little.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the wobble. That was
like just like her riding through Trash Town, smiling, waving, and then like whoa.
Yeah, and when it was doing all that, I was like, oh, is this? Because you don't really know what the film is going to be in the opening minutes, right? And I thought, well, this is going to be some sort of like, in addition to the sex work story, is some sort of like story on like urban decay or like how that all kind of ties in.
Right.
Obviously, I think it probably just plays into the trash land. It's not really trying to tell you anything more than this is not some sort of like,
or it's a commentary just writ large on like, look, kind of everything sucks. Right. I mean, this is where we live. Right. Yeah. I mean, this is who we are. So I think if there's anything, it's that. I don't think it's necessarily like kind of subtle or, a connected metaphor throughout, really.
Right. I think the interplay that she does with her characters are really really fun. I think some of the things that she's saying, like, one about sex work and two about like service industry work, and like the balance
even
between
the hierarchy
the two.
between the two,
right, is really telling. I mean, and of course she plays I think also, like, it's wildly impressive that she's on camera so much. I mean, this is her story. So this is written, directed, and starring her as her first film.
She's there all the time.
A lot of the choices, like we talked about, are brave and like, but yes, she is on screen the entire time. I'd love to kind of dig into like how she managed to pull that off. And I mean, I know she probably had a good DP and someone she trusted, but that and this is a film that is, yes, and when they came out and introduced it, they said this is an Oak Cliff Film Festival film. This is Dubai, but also, and I think that kind of one speaks to, like, this is not it's not truly an independent film. There were a lot of people that worked on this. I mean, like, I'm sure it was a low budget, but being filmed 16 millimeter, and having the look the way that it looks. She's been acting for long and been on acting in big things, not like things you would have heard of.
Right.
And so, I mean, like, there's a little bit of that going on, but I do think, like, what she was able to pull off here was really cool and really a lot of fun. And yeah, by far the best film that we saw today. Although I don't think, I mean, out of the 4 or 5 we saw, I mean, I liked 3 of them, and one I'm fine with.
Yeah, I was going to say, right. Well, wait. Oh, so we saw 5 films today?
Yeah.
So 3 we liked, 1 we're okay with, and the 5th one
we absolutely
did not.
So let's jump into Removal of the Eye.
So this film is about new parents and their constant sort of struggle to, one, get their baby to sleep and also balance their individual work-life balances, right?
Right.
Go ahead, sorry.
But I mean, their work is ludicrous. I mean, for the most part, right? He's an Indian rapper, which there's nothing wrong with being an Indian rapper. That's not my point. But like, he's Indian. He's a rapper. He's a middle-aged rapper who's never really made it.
Right. Who teaches an after-school hip-hop class for high school kids.
Right, which you can't imagine is paid.
Right.
She is a academic who's also trying to develop a VR thesis statement, some sort of like.
Her new research is going to use VR because 360 cameras are empathy machines.
Did you think that was a really weird thing to like to kind of point out? Like, I mean, I just felt it was a weird, like.
I did too, and I mean, I understood. I think the filmmaker's point to have her adopt that later on, because when she meets with her friend in the park, the friend is like, "What do you mean you're not using this tech? Everyone's using this tech."
Right.
And so, she plays it up. So she, then thinks like, "Oh, I have to adopt this and then adopt that same language that other people in my field are using, because I'm not confident enough in my own original research."
So that's the thing that I like. That's really bizarre about this film and the story that they were trying to tell, right? So this is a couple who has a newborn, but not like, I mean, it's not a toddler, it's under a year old probably.
Right.
And like
it can hold its head up.
They live above their parents or her parents.
Right.
And her father takes a tumble and her mom is not all there.
Right.
And so now they've got to deal with 2 things. But And that's not a bad story, right? I mean, like that in and of itself is not a bad story. But these 2 main characters are so unlikable, and they're so. I mean, they're like. I don't understand painting them. Here's the thing. I think what the directors and what they thought they were doing is that these are compelling people in a sense, and there's some sort of comedic element to them,
right?
But none of they should have cast other people in this.
Yeah.
And they clearly wanted it to be a pseudo autobiographical
Autobiographical.
thing because they are the parents of the kid. I mean, like,
Right.
and like they inserted all of this like family footage, and I never really understood like why they focused on
Right, like, what are we doing?
the imagery that they did. You know, the artwork and the just the different pieces. I thought that was really dumb.
Because this never becomes really like a family story.
Right. I hated the idea of this guy like printing off this PDF and then this little thought bubble of a guy.
Oh my God, that was awesome.
Telling him about this kid to go to sleep.
Yeah.
It did, because it was never introduced unless it was just thrown at you, and then it never worked. Like it was just, and that guy was bad too at what he was doing.
Right.
So like that was terrible. And the way that they behaved with one another, I'm sure they're an actual married couple who has zero chemistry on screen. And then there's hair.
Right,
and so the whole idea,
right.
the removal of the eye is, again, which is weird. It's weird that we find these like weird connections in these films, but like removal of a curse
Right.
that existed. And so you get to think that, okay, like her mom wanted to remove a curse from her when she was young, and now she wants to remove a curse from the new baby.
Yeah.
And that goes nowhere.
Right.
Like
right.
the whole movie's called Removal of the Eye.
And that is like the least. I mean, it's such a like red herring in the
and
film.
how can your red herring be the title of your movie?
And like you were saying, there's like an interesting germ of a story in parts. I mean, look, I think just the idea of these two parents trying to get this baby to sleep, right, when one has one thing to do and one has the other, that's fine. I could watch that and I could see where the kind of comedic stuff, comes from. But they never do enough with either's like individual plot points.
Well, it's
right.
right.
We should see him like play the rap thing up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like if you're going to make him a rapper, let me think that he's a good rapper.
Or
right?
no, he can be bad, but let me see him do it.
Right.
Yeah, because we never see. Let us see his YouTube videos that
he just puts on silly clothes and somebody calls him out for it. Which again, all of the side characters are ludicrous.
Right.
Like the alpha bro that like just lets his kid run around and has it all figured out. The Asian like influencer YouTuber who wants to use his beats, like her friend, the thought bubble guy, all of the people in the. I mean, look, we've all been in bad interviews on Zoom, but like that was so. Here's the thing: is that none of the comedy worked,
right?
And this movie wants to play it both ways,
right?
To have this like harrowing, like, I mean, these filmmakers are not talented enough to pull off a comedy that's based on, new parents who are fighting amongst one another and a woman who's in her mental decline.
Yeah.
There are moments, which is weird, like we've been listening to Blank Check and they're doing the Amy Heckerling. This is kind of Look Who's Talking in a way, without the Look Who's Talking conceit, but like because Abe Vigoda could be the mom,
Mikey,
right? I mean, like so, like
yeah.
But they don't know how to handle the comedic beats. They think that the comedic beats are them being whiny shitheads,
right?
And that's the first 45 minutes of the film. It was so terrible, and like it was just.
I did not know.
No,
I didn't. I
mean, I wish them well on anything else they do, but this was not a good movie, and I could not have possibly stomached sitting through the Q&A for that.
Well, and we were hungry,
right? So and we were
it was time to go
hungry.
eat. Yeah.
So positions are east of Wall first.
Let's do East of Wall.
Okay.
Let's finish up with positions. I mean, I think East of Wall. Well, yeah. I mean, how would you describe this? It's like a bunch of misfits living on a ranch together.
Yeah, it's like kids set in South Dakota without all the sex and like.
Right. I mean, it's a much more, I guess, like loving story than that.
Right.
Even though
it's like kids with parents set in South Dakota. It's like the parents have been present,
and the kids care about each other.
Right.
I mean, and they live on this ranch. And they essentially break wild horses and then sell the horses. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? And then the kids ride rodeo, and and barrels and lasso, whatever you do at a rodeo.
Right.
I have no idea.
There's young girls. So they basically all these kids live on this ranch. They break horses and they ride and they do rodeo, and they're all like kind of young kids who's really the only sort of
consistent figure in their lives is this woman Tabitha,
and the only success they have is basically breaking horses and riding in the rodeo. And she has like 2,000 acres of land, and she gets these wild horses and breaks them and tries to sell them to sustain their lifestyle, but she's not doing a great job of selling these horses for whatever reason. It's a weird thing in this movie. I think that's a thing that we're gonna kind of hung up on. Like that's what's going to be the thing that's going to save them, is just some sort of new selling methodology, because none of that really ever, like, it just feels like when they first do it and she sells the first horse for like $12.50, it feels like the town is biased against her for some reason, which is not really the case. They all kind of see her as like, she's really good at this, she's good at like breaking. And see, I think almost this movie needs a little bit more of the I'm breaking wild horses, I'm also breaking wild children and like making them, because that's the metaphor. right and but what we get is this foreigner, he's like from Texas, he's an outsider who comes in and wants to buy her farm because he sees what she can do, and he comes in and he puts a ridiculously high bid on one of her horses to kind of impress her, to kind of get her eye, and then he kind of promises to come in and says, I'll buy your farm, and I'll buy your land. You guys can do the exact same thing you're doing now, and I'll help you sell these horses. But of course, he kind of comes in and like doesn't realize what she's doing, right? He comes in and like treats everyone like employees, where she realizes she's nurturing people. I think there's a really good movie here. And I think, and I actually think I do think this was a good movie. I think there's a better movie to be had here. I think there needs to be more focus and more on the kids. And I think there should have been more moments where where the kids were almost potentially getting in trouble, or potentially but like the moments where they're all around each other and kind of bonding. And I think I really wanted to have a more distinct personality of all the kids there, because again, these aren't actors. These kids are kind of playing themselves, but a lot of them are, and that's why I brought up kids. Kids. Sure, because there's really compelling, characters in this, and like people who really kind of just pop off the screen. And I think that's the more compelling story here. Is like, I don't really care about Skylar. I don't really, or just Stetson, Skylar. I don't really care about Stetson. I don't really care about the toddler. I don't really care about her relationships, outside of the kids. Or who pretends to be Stetson's father. I don't really care about the suicide thing. Although that's fine. I could leave it. So her husband had committed suicide. I think that plays a part with our kind of, really, if we have a main kid, it's the Portia girl, right? Right. And she harbors so much resentment towards Tabitha, for this guy's suicide, where clearly there was a bigger connection between them. But again, like, we don't get a whole lot of like Portia, when she's not like riding a horse. So and the other girl that was the other rider, I thought both of them were good. I did want to see more of Portia, but I really wanted to see more of that other girl, because she did kind of pop. Yeah, she was so cool. Like, it was just. Like, I don't know, whatever her, like the cigarettes. That's all right. I already had one. And the Shit Happens T-shirt, and like, I thought all of that, and I think the main, like, the kid who wants to be a part of the family, but now is like, he's too, she doesn't have the finances to sustain it. I thought he was really good too. But I think like. The table read of them all like going around and talking about their trauma and like how she's I don't need all of that. That feels like a trick that they try to like draw out this empathy for all these people, or this kind of small town. And we don't think you really need that, right? You don't. We care about this small band of people. Yeah, and also you don't need the mother's mother birthday part of this. She's already at this stage, kind of like she's fucked up her life and she's fucked up her daughter's life or whatever.
Right.
Or
just leave it at that.
Right, and just leave it at that. But she's also the one who's kind of the protector, the protector of all of them, and kind of puts the outsider in his place. Like I said, I did not dislike this film. I actually I liked it quite a bit. I think mainly because I really enjoyed the kids in this.
Yeah.
And I think Trish, or whatever her name was, Tabitha. Why did I call her Trish?
I don't know. It starts with a T.
Right. Tabitha. I mean, like, for not being an actor, and I think she has a really kind of cool, distinctive look. And I think there was, not being an actor, I don't think that. I mean, obviously, like we talk about Eastern Western, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Where the acting is kind of stilted, and I think it works with the kids, and I don't think it works with the adults.
Yeah.
But I don't think she was terrible. I did find it interesting that, like, Faust and the other programmer at Oak Cliff, where Faust said he didn't get this film and Oak Cliff did. I'm really surprised. Why did this film not go to DIFF?
Because this seems like a DIFF film, doesn't it?
Right.
I mean, especially at this last DIFF festival.
Right. Yeah.
It really would seem to fit. With
and even the one before that, with the Viggo Mortensen film and, like, The Dead Don't Die.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like they have a Western vibe. Now, like this, like, if I were to call up Chad, this would be the one I'd be like, you should get this.
For Lone Star, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is a film you should target. Because I think it would play really well here.
I really like the filmmaking in this too.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I think it's a really well shot, well edited, beautiful film. And I mean, I think the easy comparison is to think about, like, Chloe Zhao's, like, first two films, and I mean, I think that makes sense. I think, like I said, but I thought that the landscape was shot really well, and
the horse scenes, the racing scenes.
The horse scenes were fucking cool.
And I even bought the TikTok scenes, to be honest. I didn't really think that was a bad way to go about doing that. I mean, it's a little intrusive after a while, and I don't think you need to consistently come back to it. But
no.
I was fine with it. Although it really does kind of draw out the first part of the film, where you're kind of thinking, "What the fuck is this?" Like,
right.
And when James came in and said, "Oh, you guys are always at the good ones," and I'm like, "All right, well, this is cool." I'm like, but I'm also locked into like, Ashton said at this one, like, at Fucktoys, this is a Oak Cliff Film Festival film. I don't feel like East of Wall is an Oak Cliff Film Festival film, and it feels like maybe if it had been, like, I mean, like, because everything I've ever seen here outside of that particular film has either, like, hit in a certain way, or it's just sucked. Like, it hasn't been the thing that I wanted to see. Like, I mean, like removal of the eye. Like, and I find, like, look, you're going to get misses at any of these festivals, right? I mean, like, they're not all going to be great. But I would love to understand the thought process of, like, who was pushing for removal of the eye. And I wonder if those guys are just, like, local enough to where it makes a little bit of sense, but, like, but I really wonder who was pushing for removal of the eye. It's
weird what people like.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes
when we've sat on panels where we're just like, what are people thinking? Like, why are you like this thing?
People like what they like when they have, when they're put in the position to choose these films.
Right.
They're going to choose it, but yeah.
So let's talk positions, $ positions.
Dollars. So this is a kind of crypto comedy / thriller.
Yeah.
Right. And our main character, Mike, is scheming. Scheming is giving him, I think, too much credit, right? But he wants to be a crypto bro, and he wants to be a day trader, and he's got all these big, wild ideas on how to get rich with crypto, and he's constantly watching his phone and checking the app to see what the price of. And I think he's using Ethereum in this film, right? But
I think it's made up. It's not. It's actually not even a real thing. They mention Ethereum.
They mention Ethereum, and that's why I.
Right. Yeah. Right. But whatever crypto coin he's buying is right. Is some sort of.
So what you're saying is it's just like every other crypto coin.
Well,
that it's made up.
Yeah. Except for Ethereum, he wouldn't have been able to buy as many as he did. The idea of this is like it's a speculative coin that he can buy, and he can, when he gets influxes of cash,
Right.
he can buy a significant amount of that. That way they can jump up as high as it can jump up.
Right. I mean, he's not mining for Bitcoin. I understand that. Right. And so he gets a big surge and he quits his job and thinks he's rich with 25 grand or 35 grand, however much it was. He's like, I'm rich. So he buys everyone at work lunch because his brother ate everyone's lunch because he put him in the break room.
Right, and his brother has Down syndrome or some sort of mental.
It's never It's never really
developmental disability.
But yeah. I mean, he says, my brother is developmentally disabled. They never give it a name in the film, which I think is fine. But yeah, he's just that was a great scene though. Him just sitting in the break room waving at everyone as he's just eating their food.
Right. Yeah. So he's got kind of a daycare center for his brother.
Yeah.
Because his mom is just
it's like
passed.
an adult day program.
Right. His mom has just passed and his dad's an alcoholic, so he can't take care of his disabled brother. So he takes him to an adult daycare, but he can't afford it. And he's like skipped bills. So they give him his deposit back, and it's $1,500 that he takes and immediately puts it into his crypto account and buys $1,500 worth of this coin that exists in this world. And then that's what skyrockets. But because he has to take his brother to work, he tells his brother to stay in the break room. And as people start bringing in their lunch, his brother locks the door and just eats all the stuff in the break room, which gets him in trouble but not fired. But then when he goes to get reprimanded, his portfolio is skyrocketed from $1,500 to $35,000, and he quits. And then, of course, it is a series of
everything snowballs,
ebbs and flows, but really just mostly ebbs, right? So he loses all the $35,000 after, but all these people start inviting him to parties, and everything seems such low stakes at the beginning,
right?
Where
he's on such a high,
right?
That he tells his girlfriend, who's out of his class, that he wants to have an open relationship,
but they've never even had sex together yet because he's got some sort of childhood trauma where he can't get fully hard.
He can't perform, and
and he what I think is so endearing about this movie is that it's all of it is so silly, right? I mean, all of the setups are so simple and easy. But you kind of just go with them because the pace is so frenetic, right?
Right.
It all sets up it's I don't know why I'm so forgiving, but it's so simplistic, right? Oh, I'm gonna meet my heroin addicted cousin who's doing community service work. I'm gonna tell my girlfriend that I want to have an open relationship with her, and I've got my mentally disabled brother in the back seat. What could possibly go wrong? I've got $35,000 in a speculative coin. I'm got the world up by the tail,
right? And
then everything. He goes to the party, everything starts to fall apart. His girlfriend's within 6 hours. She's like, I'm really enjoying the blowjobs. And he's like,
I found out I really like blowjobs.
Right. That's great. I mean,
I love that he says, I think it's wonderful that you've discovered so much in the 6 hours since we last spoke. I think there's some really good dialogue.
Yeah. And there's, all of the set pieces are funny. He goes back and talks to his dad, who's an alcoholic, and someone had given him THC gummies, and he was like, well, I don't drink and I don't do drugs. I gotta keep my mind sharp, because he fancies himself this smart day trader. So he wants his dad to get off of, because his dad's an alcoholic, wants his dad to stop drinking. So he tells him, take one of these and get high, and I'll buy you a bottle, but don't drink tonight, don't drink anymore. So his dad's like, fuck it, I'll just take two and you can buy me two bottles. And they all kind of celebrate that.
Pussy pills is what he calls them.
He calls them, right. And so he goes to the party, he's lost everything, and he sells on the dip. And so he only has $340 left, which is less than what he started out with in the day, I think.
Yeah.
And he comes home after the party to find his dad slumped over
against the radiator
because he took too many. He took too high of a dose. He slumped over against the radiator before it turned on, and then it turns on, and it burned his eyes and his mouth, and so now he's in intensive care, and he's got to pay for his medical bills because his insurance is lapsed. And so he sells basically everything in the house, and then ends up selling the house because he has power of attorney. And then he has to pay.
He puts all of that into.
He puts $125,000 in crypto, and of course that all crashes out again. And then he goes. And then his dad passes. He still has to pay the $40,000 that he owes the hospital. He goes and borrows money from his cousin's drug dealer, but also causes his cousin to relapse. The drug dealer tells him to like store everything, to stop, to basically store everything in cold storage, which is basically offline, so he can't sell from the app. So he can't sell like, obviously he can't sell like in the moment when it's just when he's feeling down about something, right? And so he borrows $5,000 again from this drug dealer, and then of course, things start to kind of turn for him. He like gets with his girlfriend. He gets back with his girlfriend. They actually have somewhat of sex.
Semi-sex.
Yeah. And then the stock starts to take off again. The meme coin starts to take off again. But he's taking everything offline, and his heroin addicted brother or cousin steals the computer and his hard drive to sell it to go get heroin. But the drug dealer won't sell him heroin until his brother or his cousin pays back the original $5,000 that he owes, and now he can't he's got this whole race of like, the crypto coin going up to like $300,000, but he can't sell it because he doesn't have the combination of words he needs to be able to get it in and sell it. And of course, then his cousin goes and they go try to get the computer back. So, and his cousin obviously is like, he's a drug addict. He's also hyper violent.
He's a hulking figure as well. He's big.
They get it back, but it's been wiped. And we kind of end up at with him applying, taking the last $80 that he got for the computer, and taking his brother to lunch at Sonic and doing an application, right?
At Sonic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun movie. It is pretty frenetic. I mean, it keeps, that's the thing I think what's impressive about this is it does keep the pace up. It doesn't really ever relent. It doesn't ever make you feel like what's coming.
Right.
But I do think that, you're still kind of on your edge of your seat as you're watching these things happen, right? And I think that idea of, watching this number drop is, a really funny one, and it works. I think it really works.
I do too.
Because it's not always on the screen or anything like that, but occasionally you'll hear it in his pocket, right, when it dips.
And he's always got it, so we always know it's there,
right?
And we always know it's in the back of his mind.
I also think I think the actor that he got to play that character is just the right kind of smarmy, but earnest,
yes, yeah,
white guy,
yeah,
but in the right body type, and not, like I said, that earnestness without being a slime ball, I think a slime ball crypto bro,
right?
But he plays this where you still kind of hope that he's going to win in the end, right? I thought what was going to happen was that it would have rang false a little bit because it wasn't there. But I thought at some point that the mentally disabled brother was going to know the 12 words.
I did too.
And I thought when he was putting together the puzzle, I thought he was
something.
I thought he was putting together the words. I thought that we would pan back and he would put it. And I like that this film doesn't let its characters win that much.
Right.
But I could see. But that's where I thought it was going. Mm-hmm. I absolutely thought that this was he's still gonna win, right? I mean, we still want this. It won't be the 300,000, but he'll be able to
something. Right?
He'll be able to cash out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it doesn't. I do. I mean, I as I'm watching it, I think I felt a little manipulated at times.
Yeah.
Just because it never stops.
Right.
We're always just kind of pulling and jerking us around.
Right.
To another kind of tragedy or semi-tragedy.
Right.
And at a certain point, you're okay, I don't know. I need a break here from this.
Right.
I mean, so that's my only I mean, look, like I said, I think it's a really well-written film.
Yeah.
And I think that there are bits of dialogue, and I think the acting is really good.
Yeah. I think Travis, the cousin, was really good.
Yeah. I think the girlfriend like ramps it up the right amount. Like,
yes. And I do think it captures that vibe of like this high of, and it's always trying to capture that gambling addiction kind of sensibility.
Yeah, that theme of addiction is just like an undercurrent through the whole thing,
right.
all the time with the father, with him being like, nope, never touch it. I mean, which is something he would say seeing his father, but also wanting to stay sharp.
Right. He lives in a family full of addiction, and he doesn't realize his own. And he thinks that he's kind of overcome it by doing this other thing.
Yep.
I think one of the funniest scenes is when he's telling Travis, Travis has gone to buy drugs, and the drug dealer CJ won't sell him drugs because his cousin still owes $6,000.
Right.
And Travis is prone to fits of violence, and like he's got him by the neck, essentially by the collar, and then Mike goes into that like just a standard cookie cutter definition of like what the meme coin is and how the surge is going to be, and how it's got like a 10,000 market cap, $10 million market cap with room to grow, and he's just like kind of doing this weird like sales pitch that somebody's given to him, that someone's told him.
Right.
Yeah, it was fun, and I think again, I mean it's not the best movie I've ever seen, but I had a really good time with it, and I think this kind of Run Lola Run, Uncut Gems, frenetic pace works for it, and I could see this one getting picked up somewhere and someone doing something with it. Yeah,
I mean, I that would make sense, and I think. The Run Lola Run and Uncut Gems aspect, but again, you're never. I feel like in those two films, and rightly so, you're more concerned.
Sure, right.
And with this character and with this story, you're not. You kind of know that. Okay, like nothing too awful is going to happen to these.
The worst case scenario is that he's going to have to go back and beg for his job back, or work at Sonic, which is what actually ends up happening to him, right? I mean, like there's. The end state, although it did kind of like feel like a little bit of sick of myself as well, like where it's this like constant like you just basically stabbing yourself in the eye, or you can't get out of your own way.
Skin off. Yeah. So that was Positions. So we'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the last day. So. Yeah, until then, thanks for listening.
Yeah, keep screaming.
You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,